Yes, Epic Pinball. During the golden age of shareware, most people were familiar with Epic Pinball for its flagship table, Android, since the shareware edition of Epic Pinball was that table alone. You may have come across it if you had one of those shareware collection CDs like this one. I was that way also. I played Android to death as a kid, and later on I got a hold of a commercial copy of the game, and to this day, Android is still my pinball paradise. Now, although I'm not as nostalgic for the other tables, there are some really good ones. Basically, they were divided up into 3 packs, which went like this. Pack 1 had Android, Excalibur, Pot of Gold, and Crash and Burn. Pack 2 had Jungle Pinball, Deep Sea, Magic, and Enigma. And Pack 3, which was not visible from the shareware version, had Pangea, Toy Factory, Space Journey, and Cybergirl. Then there was this African Safari table, which was exclusive to the CD version. But to be honest, the table looks really slopped together and it doesn't play very well, and altogether it's not very fun. Jungle Pinball is another one I really like besides Android, since it's an obvious ode to the classic PC platformer Jill of the Jungle, which was also from Epic Mega Games. Another notable table is Deep Sea Pinball. It's really fun to play, and I like that they went with a creepy kind of atmosphere. It reminds me of XCOM Terror from the Deep, and how everything was nice and blue, but it was still creepy as heck. The last really noteworthy one of the bunch would be Enigma. This seems like the kind of table where the developers had the most fun and stopped attempting to be lifelike. It's a level-based table, and as you advance, the targets all change, along with the background color. Here in the beginning, bumpers just appear out of nowhere, and later you have mines, and so on and so forth. It's a lot of fun. But even after playing all of these, I still prefer Android. Oh yeah, baby. Now under the hood, the gameplay is pretty basic. You can alter the number of extra balls and change the angle of the table to make the ball faster or slower. There's even a secret where if you pressed F1 and the ball count selected, it would go up to 6. Epic Mega Games, now known as Epic Games and distinguished as the company behind the Gears of War series, had quite a run of great titles back when this came out. They started with a game called ZZT, which was a little DOS shooter based on ASCII graphics. Then they had the great platforming series Jill of the Jungle, which I really enjoyed. And of course, Jazz Jackrabbit. But Epic Pinball strikes me as special because, well, go back and look at pinball on the computer before 1993. I'm not saying that they hadn't made good pinball games for the PC at that point, but I am going to say that Epic Pinball hit a level of realism which hadn't been achieved yet. Okay, let's go back to the Android table. Since this game isn't freeware yet, Android is probably the only table you're going to have if you decide to go out and grab the shareware version. But that's okay, because it's still the best one. One of the reasons why I think it's the best one is because of the ramp design. It seems like all the other Epic Pinball tables, they did the best with Android. You have 3 long ramps that coil outside the playing field, so they don't obscure the center rolling area. This is something that I don't think they did nearly as well in the other levels. The worst example of ramp work is in the Pot of Gold table. This actually isn't bad otherwise, I just don't think this center loop thing really worked well at all. A little later on there was a sequel to Epic Pinball entitled Extreme Pinball, but I never heard of that back in the day, and maybe the reason for that would be because the shareware table, Rock Fantasy, looks really lame. Let's talk about acquiring a copy of Epic Pinball. Now, it does make the rounds on abandonware websites, but abandonware is still piracy. Even if the games aren't commercially available anywhere else, it is still piracy. Somebody owns the license to Epic Pinball, therefore nobody has the right to give it away for free. So, you can still acquire legally the shareware version. So I'll put a link to that. I think Home of the Underdogs probably hosts it or something. I'll go out and find it and post a link here in the description where you can grab it. There's a website called GOG.com, which most of you are probably familiar with already. They're currently selling digital copies of really old games, which they've retrofitted to run on newer systems. One of the things I really like about that site is that when you buy a game, they give you the manual and the soundtrack if there is one. GOG.com, you guys got to get this game in your lineup. A little bit of technical info just before we close. Epic Pinball, if you're running Windows XP, will run without DOSBox, but I wasn't able to get the sound working. So you're better off grabbing a copy of DOSBox and running it that way. This is Critical Failure for Tiger Claw TV. Thanks for watching.